Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back. So this is a call and response type blues. And what that means is that you play a call, something like that, and then respond with something like this. That's why it's called call and response. So usually it's played with kind of like a lead type riff, and then like a rhythm guitar part. Okay, so that's what the call and response is. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to do the call and response, but I'm also going to show you how to visualize the lead guitar parts. So how you can pick like these little riffs and how to show those spots on your guitar, how you can find those, and then respond with a classic riff. So that's what we're talking about today, and let's just go for it. We're going to start this with the first call phrase. And I think just by going through this whole lesson, if you watch to the end, you'll be able to follow along and kind of create your own call and response type blues. So here we go. So let's start with that first call phrase. So what I did was here, this is a 12-bar blues in the key of G minor. So we're starting here. This is our starting spot. Okay? And if you take a look, this is the spots where we're going to play our lead phrases. We're going to choose between these notes that you see here, okay? The phrase that I played at the beginning sounds like this. Okay, that's the call phrase. So let me slow that down. Okay, it starts with a little hammer on. Then we go to the 3rd fret of the G, back to the 5th fret of the D, okay, and then 5, 3, 5 from the G to the D string. Okay, slowly all together. That's the call phrase. Now you can see those notes there. We could choose any other types of phrase. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Then after we play the call phrase, we need to play the response phrase. And for the responses, we're always going to follow the 12-bar blues form, at least in this style. You could follow a 8-bar blues or any other type of chord progression, but you need to have that chord progression in mind when you're doing this and not just guess when to change the chords, okay? Since we're in the key of G, the first phrase should be over G, which looks like this. Here's the note G, and the phrase looks like this. Okay, just follow those tabs on the screen. So putting those two together sounds like this. We have the call and response. Again, call and response. Okay, at that point in the blues, the chord is going to change. So it's going to go to, it went from a G minor for those first 4 bars. Now we're going to a C minor for the next 2 bars. Remember, we're following that 12-bar blues. So the call could actually be the same, right? But we're actually changing it to do a little bit of what we call playing the changes a little bit more. And you don't need to know music theory to know this. You just need to follow these dots, okay? So instead of landing here with my 3rd finger on the fatter string on this little box, we're going to land on the 3rd finger on the skinnier string in this box. Okay, this phrase was identical, except we landed there instead. So that's a different call. It's a variation. This time we're going to play the response on C. Notice the response, again, is exactly the same as the response from before, except this time it's phrased over a C chord. All you have to know is that the first response started here, okay, and then the second response over the C starts 1 string over, skinnier. Okay, that gets you through those first 6 bars. Okay, that's half of it. After that, the next 2 bars, we're going to go back to the first call. And response. Okay. At that point, we're going to change to a new chord again. So we played G already, G minor, to C minor. At this point, we're going to play a phrase over D minor. Okay, so what we do is instead of changing everything and kind of knowing all the notes, you don't need to know a bunch of music theory for this. All you need to know is the landing spot on the call should land on the note D. For the first call, we landed on the note G over the G minor chord. For the second call, we landed on the note C over the C minor chord. Okay, and this call, we're just going to land on the note D. So you play this phrase. Okay, all you need to know is take this little box here that you see. Okay, this is our landing spot for the C chord, or what you would call the 4 chord. Okay, the 5 chord will just be up a whole step from there, so 2 frets. So to that spot. So the call for the D chord would sound like this. Okay, now the response needs to be over the D as well. So we're going to play, instead of playing here or here, again, we're going to move it up a whole step. Okay, now at the end of the phrase, it quickly goes back to a C. So that phrase all together over the D will sound like this. Okay, and we're landing again on that C because that's the chord that was played at that time in the 12-bar blues. What's left for the first chorus is just to do the final call and response over the G chord again. And then that's the whole cycle of 12 bars. That's the 12-bar blues cycle. Okay, so hopefully you understand where I'm catching these notes, why I'm playing these 4 notes here over the G and the C chord, and then why I'm landing on certain notes over the 12-bar blues, okay? What I'm going to do now is just do a real slow playthrough with the metronome of the whole first chorus of this call and response type so that you guys can try to play along. Once you can play this, try to vary it a little bit so that you can make it your own. After this, we're going to go over the second chorus where you can come up the neck a little bit. But let's do that slow playthrough right now. So the one I played at the beginning was about 120 BPM, I think. This one for the slow playthrough, let's put it at 70. That sounds like this. Okay. So clicking, 1, 2, 3, 4. The phrase is actually going to start right after beat 2. So 1, 2. Here we go. Moving to C. Back to G. D. Cool. So that's that slow playthrough. So what I recommend, is to learn that slow playthrough and try to play along, but go back through and watch the stuff at the beginning of this video, the explanations of how you can make this your own. That's how you're going to get the most out of this video and this type of lesson. Okay, great. So that's the first chorus. So after that, you might want to do some variations, right? So let's take a look at what we did next. So the second chorus through, all we're doing here is changing the call phrases. So instead of phrasing them down here, we're going to phrase them up the neck a little bit. So take a look at where we have the dots from the first phrase that we learned. Okay, remember, this is the key. Okay, we're in the key of G minor, so this is the note G. This is going to be your reference point. So if you're playing somewhere else on the neck, all the dots would change in relationship to where that one chord is, the first chord. So here's our first set of dots. Okay, and then our second set of dots is going to be up here. Okay, so see those dots in relationship with these dots on the 3rd and 5th fret. This next set up is on the 6th and 8th frets of the 1st and 2nd string. It's the same box. The cool part about it is if you learn phrases down here, just whatever you play, the fingering feels exactly the same. So you're learning, you can kind of do the same thing twice in a row if you want. Right? It's the same little phrase. So the fingering that you learn from the first box transfers directly to this next box. Okay, what we're going to do is add one extra note to this to actually fill out the entire G minor pentatonic scale. And that looks like this note here. Okay, those are the 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gives us all 5 notes of our G minor pentatonic. So if you just take a look at the box here, notice how they kind of connect. From here, you can slide up to this note, and then you're in the second box. That's a really important thing to know, is so you can play phrases here, then slide up, and then your hand should feel really comfortable in that second box because everything feels exactly the same. The notes are the same, they're just up an octave. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is just I'm going to play some few phrases. You would treat this the same way. You would do the call up here. And remember, the answers or the responses are always going to be in the same spot. So the form and everything is the same. So just kind of use all the stuff you learned from the beginning of the video to transfer over to the second chorus. So let's do some phrases as in call and response type stuff. So here's one that I think I played in the beginning. Okay, so I'm just kind of coming up and playing those notes. After you play a phrase of the appropriate length, then play the response. Okay, the landing spots are the same. So remember how we talked about here, we're landing on with the third finger on the fat string over the 1 chord. That's the same thing here. Third finger on the fatter string of the 2 strings, right? The B string in this case, will give you that root note of the 1 chord. That's the note G. So you don't really have to know all the notes here. You just have to kind of know where's your starting spot, where do these boxes, where are they located, and that's all. Okay? Now on phrases like this, you can phrase them the same, or the second chorus through, you can kind of just make some stuff up. That's what I tried to do. Right? You come up here. Right? That phrase is a little too long, but you get the idea, right? We can bend this note. Okay? The top note is a bendable note. So you can also do this. Right? This is adding that blue note. So you can add that there. You can also add it here. Okay. So when you phrase things on the second chorus, don't worry about, you try to make it a little bit more free and kind of more of improvisation. In my opinion, that's the best way to practice. Take it kind of strict on the first chorus through, kind of making sure you're landing on the root note of the chord at the appropriate time. Second chorus through, just try to do some licks. And then another one, just do a variation. And you don't have to land on the root notes here. You can land on... That's how I landed on G over the C phrase. It still sounds cool, right? Any of these notes are going to sound okay to land on. Just so you know, though, they're going to be the same. So here we have the note G. That's a good landing spot for the G chord. This is the note C, a good landing spot over the C minor chord. And then this is the note D, a good landing spot over the D minor chord. Now, don't be so strict, especially on the second chorus, trying to land in the perfect spots. Just be free with it. Play some phrases. And just kind of go back and forth and vary. And try to remember the cool phrases that you like when you're playing them. Maybe write them out or record yourself, and so that way you can remember them later. This is such a fun way to play. Everybody really likes playing this. It's also really cool for the listener because you can throw a lot of variations in and they don't really know that you're just making things up at the time. Maybe they do, depending on what they're learning in their life. But people really love to listen to this stuff. And it's even more fun to play it. So I really hope you got something good out of this lesson. If you really liked this lesson, please leave me a comment in the comments and give me a thumbs up. That really helps me out in YouTube. And that's it for this one, guys. So I hope you had fun learning this one, and I'll see you guys on the next one.